Okay, hello everyone. My name is Sandra Solomon. I was born in the West Bank from a Muslim family, raised all my life in Saudi Arabia, and I'm doing the movement Canadians Against Islamization to help Canadians to wake up and to raise awareness about the danger of the Islamization of Canada.
Where else have you lived in the Middle East? So you were raised in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, between Saudi Arabia and Jordan, but most of my life was in Saudi Arabia. When I moved to Saudi Arabia, I was 9 years old.
And I'm guessing you would have had to have been a Muslim, like you were born a Muslim and raised a Muslim?
Yes, of course. Yeah, I my whole family were Muslims, and we moved to Saudi Arabia when I was 9, and so I lived in 100% Sharia law constitution. Um, I came to Canada about 2005. My ex he applied for like immigration, and I was on the file with him. So he was the sponsor. Toronto mainly, and Mississauga, and I lived a little bit in Edmonton, but mainly in Ontario. Yes, I start to open my eyes into so many things that I've noticed the increase of hijabi women and also most of the restaurants also like halal, even if it's not like even a Chinese restaurant have to have a halal certificate food. So many I myself a beautician. I'm a beautician. Most of the hair salons in the big malls, they all have a hijabi section for Muslim women. And as I said, also like the number, I can see the number is increasing as well, rapidly, very, very, very fast, and the number of the mosques as well, and so many as well. A lot of Muslims active activities like a Muslim festival, Muslim conferences, Muslim here, Muslim there, everywhere. Like I can see we are getting surrounded with the Islamic culture. And also something that I stood up against it and I protest in front of it, a poster on TTC Dundas stating that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is messenger, asking people to collect a copy of the Quran, like for a da'wah, um, a mosque.
So, and is this something that's becoming commonly seen around Toronto?
Of course, like everywhere, like you go, like even when I talked to the TTC, when I protest in front of it, and I told them, and I asked them like to remove it because this is very offensive, and they end up just move it to another station. They did not remove it; they just move it. So
So I think critics, the average Canadian would probably say, what is the problem with that? What's wrong with giving Qurans away and making that statement of Islamic? I think because most Canadians probably see Islam as being a rough analog of Christianity and Judaism. But you grew up in Muslim countries. What would you respond to that?
I would say to these people, if you whatever they giving like a Quranic or a dawah or everything, this is just a beginning. This is not the end of it. They're not gonna stop up to this point. I wish they're just gonna stop up to this point. Yeah, of course, everyone has the freedom to practice. But I know for sure, as a ex-Muslim, they don't stop at this point. And living under Sharia law, this is creeping a little bit, slowly coming to the cities to implement Sharia law. This is their final goal. This is a steps to the final and big plan. So many of these Canadians, they don't see the big plan. They don't see the big picture.
Could you give me an example of when you say, in terms of Sharia law, implementing Sharia law, can you give me a couple of examples of what that might mean?
Sharia law?
Well, you say that they're trying to implement Sharia law here. So can you give me a couple of examples of what that might look like? Like, why is that something to be concerned about?
Well, when we talk about Sharia law, okay, we're talking about the Quran. We're talking about a constitution. Because Islam, it's a political agenda. It's not a religion. For them, when it comes to Sharia law and their constitutional book, which is the Quran, that's what I always have in my hand to show people. This is the book that they govern with. Like, this is their government. That's the government here in this book. So whatever the book tells them to do, whatever the instruction or the law in this book, they go by it. They don't go by Canadian law or Canadian values. And what it's look like living under Sharia law, it's hell. It's not funny. No freedom of speech. There's lots of abuses for women. No women right, no gender equality. There is no equal, and education in so many aspects, in so many levels. Sharia law. The Trudeau, when he said it's totally, when he said with an ICNA, he said Islam is totally incompatible.
Analyst Stephen Coughlin, who's a Sharia law expert in the United States, once said that, and earlier you referred to them doing dawah, which is, I think those people who even know the term think of it as proselytizing. But Stephen Coughlin says that doing dawah is not proselytizing the way a Christian minister might do it, that it's in fact laying the ground for jihad. Would you agree that that's true? If it's true, how is it true? And what exactly, when we talk about jihad, what do we mean?
Okay, I'll take you back 1400 years ago, okay? It's all started by a guy named Muhammad, the founder of Islam. When he was in Mecca doing his dawah for his claim that he's a prophet and he's bringing a religion. Before he went to Medina, not many Muslims even know this. Before he went to Medina, he made arrangements with a group of bandits and thugs they called Sa'alik. These bandits and these thugs, he made arrangement with them if they would help him in his dawah, okay, he will give them more, because these bandits, the thugs, they used to go like attack caravans and kill the men, taking women, sex slave, and take the kids as well, and train them to be like them. So Muhammad, when nobody listened to him in Mecca for almost like 13 years, and he was already planning this before he went to Medina. So when he took this group to Medina and start playing around, because the Medina were like full, if it's a tribal, the region was full of tribes, and these he starts you know, using these thugs and these bandits, like there is a serial killers, you know, they're killers. They're like the people when they rent a killer to do the crime for them. It's the same concept. So he took them and he started using the conflict between tribe and another tribe, using these thugs to go wage a war against other tribes. And that's how he got to build an army, almost 300 people. And he went to Mecca, and then he started calling for jihad against the infidels. He called anyone who do not believe in him an infidel, kafir. So he claimed to be the final prophet, and his book is the final message, which is the Quran. And anyone who do not believe in this, considered kafir, infidels, and Muslims, which is equal, thugs and bandits, they have to do wage a jihad, a war against these infidels, regardless. So that's why he started it. He went back to Mecca, killed many people, and established his government, the Islamic State. That's how it started. And from that story goes on for 1400 years, nothing changed. And when Muslims do da'wah, it's same what Muhammad did, using taqiyya when he used to say, oh, you have your religion, I have my religion, or la ikraha fi din, there is no compulsion in religion, it's okay. It was just a peaceful messages in the Maccayan verses. It was a temporary one until he got himself connected with these bandits and these thugs, and he was able to build an army. Then the Medina verses in the Quran, all of it, it talk about mocking the Jews, the Christians, going for jihad, kill the infidel wherever you find them. So many passages and so many verses in the Median verses calling for jihad, which is waging war against the infidels. And same thing, whatever the Muslims are doing in Canada, in Europe, and everywhere, it's just a temporary, I would say, call it hudna, a temporary assignment or agreement until they are fully in control of the country.
Or in a position to take control, I imagine.
Exactly, in the position to take control, which is exactly what they're trying to do now in Canada, and I can see it happening. Well, I said what I said, that I stood up and I said the Quran, it's a hate liturgy, and and it should not be in school because they're trying to bring, this is another thing that when you ask me about, are you witnessing some changes in the cities? That's one of them, because they want to bring the Friday prayer, the Friday khutbah to the schools, to the public schools, and which is, I totally disagree with it, and I can't stand anymore of Canadians being quiet about this. Is a major, especially when it comes to the kids, it affected me the most because the kids are innocent, they don't know, they cannot distinguish. They're kids, they're innocent.
So earlier you said that Mohammed and his initial gang of thugs, when they would rob a caravan or another tribe, they would take the women as sex slaves. That's well documented, the Banu Qurayza, for instance. But you said that they took the kids to make them like them. Is that the beginning of the Islamic habit of taking European children as janissaries?
Of course, this is how they, because they want to grow, right? They want to grow in number. To them, these kids, as I said, the Muslim kids of today, the terrorists of tomorrow, they take them, they train them, they brainwash them. That's one of the reasons I was going so mad at the Beale District School, because I can see they want to brainwash the kids in Canada, Canadian kids, to bring them, to make them like them.
And so since you've been here, and of course, the new Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, has a policy of bringing in a large number of allegedly Syrian refugees. What I want to know is, have you met personally many of these people that Trudeau has brought in? And out of the people that you've met, how many of them have actually been Syrian? How many have been refugees? And what was their disposition, do you think, towards Canada?
I did not get the chance to meet them. Once they bring them, they disappear. It's not easy to find them. They're not in a camp where you can just go to the camp and talk to them. The Islamic ideology.
Getting rid of Islamic ideology, then.
Exactly. It's the ideology itself. It's danger. It's the destruction, rape, slavery. Same. These liberals, they're trying to slave the Canadians, and a bunch of thugs using another thugs. It's the same concept. When Muhammad wanted to grow, he bring the thug. So these thugs, they're bringing another thugs. That's how it is. It's the same. The history is repeating itself. And it's very true. If you don't know the history, you cannot fix the future.
It's the milestones process, I'm thinking. It's Saeed Qutb in his book Milestones wrote, the way to take over Western nations was to repeat the actions of Mohammed and the first generation.
Exactly, that's exactly what's happening. They're using the taqiyya, which is in the Quran. ولا تتخذوا المشركين أولياء من دون الله إلا أن تتقوا منهم تقى. That's mean do not take the infidels allies unless you're doing taqiyya with them. If you're doing taqiyya, that means you lie to them. It's halal. It's okay to lie to the unbelievers until you have the upper hand. And in the Quran, وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَدْعُوا لِلسِّلْمِ وَأَنْتُمُ الْأَعْلَوْنَ. That means do not humble it yourself. Do not ask for peace because you're the above.
So kind of a sacred deception then.
Exactly. It's a deception, lying, taqiyya, however you want to put it. It's fake. It's not true. And the things that I face myself when I say about Islam, when I talk about Islam, most of the time I say I did not just read the Islamic texts. I lived it. I lived Islam. I lived under Sharia law. I know exactly, especially for women. Especially for women. It's hell. It's not a life. It's jail, slavery, rape, virtually, mentally, emotionally.
Can you give me a couple of examples of what life is like for women in Saudi Arabia?
The first incident I will never forget in my life, when I was between 10 to 11 years old, okay, as a little young girl, when they say about Friday prayer, that's one of the reasons I got very upset in the Peel District School, because flashback, I can remember when I saw in front of my eyes the beheading every Friday. This is the Muslim celebration and 100% Islamic Sharia law. They go after every Friday. Every Friday there is like a square, like a Siadanda square, like a place when they gather, and they put the man with the big sword in his hand, and he would say Allahu Akbar, and he will beheaded the person. That's I saw. This is the kids. That's what, as a kid, we witnessed this. I witnessed the beheading myself.
Wow,
This
that's
is
awful.
how they celebrate Friday. This is the Friday celebration to them.
And you know, the nature of the crimes that people are decapitated for are often speech and thought crimes. I mean, if you apostatize from Islam in Saudi Arabia, will they kill you?
Look at Raif Badawi. Raif Badawi, I don't know if you know his case. He just put like a website, the liberal, the Saudi liberal. He wanted to, slowly to bring the idea of separation of religion and a state. Till today, he's in jail. I don't know if he's alive or not yet. They flogged him. They flogged him publicly in front of media. His wife, with the 3 kids in Canada, somewhere maybe in Montreal or somewhere there, alone with her kids, with the kids. They did not, just because he thought about it, just because he was thinking. He did not say he left Islam or anything like that.
So I noticed that in Europe, going back to the subject of jihad for a minute, there's obviously more than one kind of jihad. And it seems to me that in Europe, Muslims are forcing women to live as if they were under Sharia by sexual harassment, molestation, and rape attacks, such that women travel in groups, they dress modestly, cover their hair, or will dye their hair black, like in Sweden. If they're blondes, they'll dye their hair. In Germany, the government itself is giving women advice on how to avoid being raped by behaving essentially as a Muslim woman behaves. That seems to me to be another kind of jihad where we're submitting to it for some reason. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what we are facing here. We're talking about governments betraying their own people and trying to help the Islamization of the country, whatever is the country it is, like if France or or German or Britain, whatever is the country, the betrayers in the government, like what we have here in Canada, same when they bring the hijabi day in Ottawa. So advising women or encouraging Canadian women to wear the hijab. But of course, this is part of the Islamization movement. They want to Islamize the country. They want to make the women submit to the thoughts, or yeah, because if she's gonna wear the hijab, this hijab is gonna protect her. But guess what? I lived in Saudi Arabia. Most all women, like, they cover themselves, and yet they got sexually harassed. They got sexually attacked in Mecca. When I went to Mecca, around the Kaaba itself, they do sexual harassment. Because the men, when they do the pilgrim, how they do the pilgriming there around the Hajj, around the Kaaba, the stone, the cube, they go around. The men there, when they wear they wrap themselves with the white sheet, they're not wearing underwears. And it's busy like crazy. It's like people, like their bodies, like very, like imagine you putting 15 people in elevator capacity of 5, and I'll leave the rest to the people to imagine how it is when men rubbing their bodies with a woman bodies around the cube, around the Kaaba, and they're not wearing underwears. This is a paganism. Muhammad, he collected so many rituals and so many other stuff from other, because Mecca used to be a multicultural city. There was a Jews, Christian, pagans, worshiping idols. The Hajj itself, it was a pagan ritual. The Hajj and Ramadan, it was there before Islam. That's why many people in Mecca, they did not believe him. They said, "What are you talking about? Like, he's not bringing anything new."
That's what the Persian emperor said too. When he first gave the option to the Persian people to convert, fight, or convert. What's the three options to convert?
It's
Live as
either
dhimmis.
to convert, to become a Muslim, or you pay the jizya, or to be killed. So that's exactly what the thugs, the bandits, al-Sa'alik in Arabic, they used to do. They will slave people and make them pay the jizya as well. Yes, I'm a street preacher as well, and every time, whenever I go to the streets, and many times as well, I go to like when there's a Muslim festival or anything, they or conference or whatever. I go there and I expose Islam for what it is. I expose the Sharia law, and I speak the truth for what it is, regardless of what people want to call me. I don't care, and I'm not afraid. And that's what they're trying to do. They want to put laws to suit the Sharia law. Maybe it doesn't say it by the name, it's Sharia law, but a law to suit Sharia law. So it is a Sharia law. This is the same thing. This is what Muhammad did. He put this law and he make it the law. It's a state. Islam, it's a state. It's not religion. Has nothing, it's far beyond religion. We cannot call it religion because that's how they bring it to the people. If you buy, let's say you buy a chocolate and the chocolate has almond in it, and the package doesn't tell you that there is an almond in this chocolate, but when you're eating, you find that there is an almond. So what are you gonna call this company? A deceiver. They deceive you. You don't want almond. So the almond inside the mask of the religion of Islam, it's the jihad, the political slavery for people, raping women, taking kids and make them like them. That's exactly what they're gonna try to do, infiltrating the public school. This is just the beginning. Soon you're gonna see many of them demanding all the boys to sit at the front, regardless are they Christian or Buddhist or whatever they are, or Hindu, it doesn't matter. They're gonna demand the boys to sit at the front and the girls to sit at the back. Again, the same concept. Oh, because they don't want them to be harassed or whatever. But yet, the hijab, it doesn't prevent the sexual harassment. So far, many incidents happen, and it will increase. It will increase, especially in high schools. Muslim migrants, boys, 18 years old, they will sexually harass or rape, I would say 10 or 11 or 12 or maybe 8 years old girls. They will do it. I can see it happening.
So what do you say, I mean, if you have one really clear message for the Canadian people at this time, what is it that we as individuals can do?
Stand up, wake up, and don't like, this is your home. This is your home. This is your land. If any a group of Canadians, they move to Saudi Arabia, can they tell the government, okay, to change Sharia law to adapt Canadian values? They won't let them. So why letting them to do same here, right? We have our law, enforce it.
Have you experienced any kind of pushback from when you speak on the street about these issues? Have you had any problems either from Muslims, from Canadian leftists, or from Canadian authorities?
The Muslims, yes, many times they would verbally insult me. And one time, one incident, a Muslim guy, when I was holding the Quran and I'm reading the Quran, especially when I was exposing the verses from the Quran, mocking the Jews and calling them pigs and monkeys from the Quran. And because when I read it in Arabic, I don't read the English. There were a group of Muslims, there were Arab, some of them Egyptian. And one guy, he actually attacked me physically and he pushed me back and he took the Quran from me. And yes, not caring that he's in Canada, I am a woman. That's another, like, the Canadians, they don't want to see this, like, they're blinded about it. Like, they don't think, Muslims, they don't think about Canada, or if they are on a Canadian soil, to live under Canadian law or within, to adapt the Canadian values, to respect women and not to beat them up, because this is that they grow up with. They grow up seeing he grew up seeing his mother being beaten, his sister, you know, he will beat his sister, he will beat his wife. So why not beating infidel women standing on the street, exposing his lies, right? Especially when I'm apostasy. Yeah, apostate, like, you know, this is even makes it more worse, because in Islamic teaching, Muhammad, he said, whoever change his religion, kill him. So according under Sharia law, anybody, he would kill me, any Muslim, anywhere, he would kill me, they will celebrate him, because it's not considered a crime. Under Sharia law, if someone leave Islam, he should be killed. And if anybody, any Muslim, brother, father, family, doesn't matter, even a Muslim walking in the street and knowing that this person left Islam, and if they kill them, they will celebrate him, give candies, no jail.
And what about Canadian authorities or leftists on the street? Have they also given you a hard time about your message?
Of course, yeah. Many people will call me racist, or call me Islamophobe, or call me whatever they want to call me, and you know, or hate, promoting hate. Of course.
And Canadian, how about police or other Canadian authorities? Have they tried to stop you?
Yes, the police stopped me a couple times, but they would tell me, you know, because they don't want the problem to increase more, because they saw like lots of violence, especially when I stood up for the Canadian senior who got beheaded in the Philippines. And when I sat there, there was a Muslim guy, you know, trying to attack me, and they gone very, very angry because I was reading the Quran, the verses that, the verse from the Quran that motivate ISIS to behead that Canadian. I was very, very sad and very upset about, because when I saw the video, and he's a Canadian, and the government did not do anything about it, with a very cold blood. Trudeau, he did not even bother to comment, like, and the way it should be. As a leader for the country, Trudeau, he's a betrayer for Canada. He should not be on the Canadian soil to begin with. He should be deported to Saudi Arabia.
Or Iran. I have a feeling that
Or Iran.
he seems to have a lot of connections to Iran.
Exactly. He has a connection with the terrorists. Put it this way, when you talk about Saudi Arabia and Iran, it's terrorists. It's all terrorists and everything. So whatever happened, what's going on in Middle East, it's all them. They are creating this war. It's not a war based on someone wants to occupy someone else's land. No, they want to bring the caliphate, the Khilafah. Muslims, this is very important point for every Canadian to understand. Islam don't believe in borders. There is no borders in Islam. Ad-Din kulluhu lillah, that means the whole religion for Allah. In Islam it teach there is the house of war and the house of Islam. Dar al-Islam, the house of Islam, and Dar al-Harb, the house of war. As long as the infidel existed on the earth, Islam has to keep doing jihad until the whole Dar, the house, all of it Islamic, all of it submitting to Sharia Allah, until the whole world. I'm talking about dominating of the earth. This is their plan. And the lefties, the globalists, and the betrayer in the church leaders as well, and some betrayer from the rabbis as well, they're helping them. It's all group of thugs, you know, killing the nationalism. They want to destroy the civilization, the Western civilization, using these migrants, the refugees, and many people, they feel sympathized. So guess what? There is a 52 Muslim country in the world. None of them took not even one Syrian kid, I would say. None of them. They did not open the borders to the Syrian refugees. None of them.